Patty, nice to see you.
So this is going to be an interesting conversation. I don't think we have to introduce ourselves, but just in case there's somebody new, we got Sandy and me, Betty, and we're talking about pivoting our
Energy.
energies today. And I'll let you get started, Sandy.
Okay, thanks, Betty. Pivoting our energy. Why we chose this topic today? We're getting hit on so many fronts with different energies that are coming in, that sometimes it's hard to understand where the energy is coming from, and it's affecting us in the emotional realm. But if it's affecting us in the emotional realm, how are we handling it, and is it ours even? So what is happening? Many people are commenting to me in the last week or so that they're up one day, down the next day, they're feeling nauseous. Betty, you talked about a headache last week. Other people are telling me they've had migraines last week. I just saw them like this week and they're telling me they had them. So we understand that some of these energies are beyond our control, but they're affecting us emotionally. So how do we pivot our energy when these things come in? And the big part of pivoting our energy is understanding how does it affect us in the first place? So I went through a couple of days of despondent. Why the fuck do I care when nobody does? And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think that way. So at first I had to examine my feeling. Why am I saying this to myself? Is it my feeling? Yes. Am I being impacted by other things? Yes. And I had to go through and understand what it is that's offending me about what's going on right now. Because I'm going to jump here a bit, but our souls is what's going to take us into 5D. Our physical body's in the 3D, but it's our soul, it's our heart, it's the essence of who we are that's going to climb into the higher dimensions. So when I started to understand that, then I realized, well, that's where they're going to start to hit us on those dimensions of our emotion, our integrity, what matters to us, our values, things along that line, right? So it was really interesting that I was despondent for a couple of days, and all it took was meeting a new person and listening to her say the exact same stuff that Betty and I talk about all the time. Patty talks about it. Jen talks about it. We all say the same stuff, but all it took was one more person saying this. And it was like, boom, I'm home again. And I watched myself come out of my funk. And this is how fast energies can pivot. But the idea is not to judge what we're going through, but to feel it. Mm-hmm. Ask it, what's it telling me? So some people are saying to me, oh, be positive. And it's like, that's the old cliche, the light and the love bullshit, right? What does positive mean? And I look at that and I say, no, maybe you're not meant to feel positive. Maybe you're meant to feel what you're feeling, whether it's good or sad. But it's funny how fast it took just to pivot the energy and realize, okay, we are in a shit show. We know that. There's no, and it's getting worse in Ontario, blah, 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 right? What does Ontario have that every other province doesn't? No, I might be wrong about Quebec. Ontario has 14.7 million of the 38 million people. They want us dead. I can't believe I'm laughing, but I've known this for a while. But this is why they're targeting us so hard in Ontario, right? That with this passport coming in and things like that. What is really funny, though, is watching how people are turning around and coming up. So every time they lay down a new rule, somebody comes up with another solution. I'm not going to say what those solutions are right now, but if anybody wants to private message Betty or I, we'll tell you what they are. We're not telling them our playbook. But there's things that we can do that we speak about privately that they don't need to know about what we're going to do about this, right? So pivoting our energy is so important. And when we look at this, imagine you're at a water park and you're going through one of those water slides. And maybe you're on a tube and maybe you're just on your bare bum on the water going through the slide. And you're going through up the side and up the other side and you're spinning around and you're going through a corkscrew and then you get slam dunked in the bottom of the pool. Mm-hmm. We're going through that emotionally right now, but it doesn't feel like water. It feels like we're going through fire. And maybe we're being purified with all this, right? But it's really, I just wanted to talk about pivoting our energy, knowing we do have the power to change what we think and change our perceptions, but we still have to see the negative. We have to see what is going on for what it is so that we can prepare. How do we prepare? We prepare physically. So we know that we cleanse our bodies. We know that we stock up on things. If it's a physical security issue, We find ways to protect ourselves that way. We clear emotionally, which means if we've had past traumas, whether this life or past lives or whatever, it doesn't matter. That's still ours to clear out now. We want to be hopeful for the future and bring in the new with the positive energies. So it's almost like we're getting hit on every aspect of ourselves. The mental energy is knowing that they're trying to kill you and not losing your mind over it. Do we understand why there's so much mental illness? Mental illness, in my opinion, is a symptom of victimization. A lot of the depression and the anxiety is not in every case. People have been hurt, and then they tried to use the system and they got screwed over again. So they go in depression because they feel helpless and hopeless. That's not the way humanity is meant to live.
No. And I mean, this falls really nicely into what I posted yesterday on our Telegram channel with the that 11-minute video inspired, and looking at things instead of looking at it, what's going on right in front of you in the little bits, doing it from the bird's eye view and seeing it as a whole, and that this is such a critical time in human history. Like, we really can change everything, and it's realizing that this isn't happening to me, right? Personally, it's happening to us as a collective, and it has been a huge plan through the whole, this just didn't happen in 2019, 2020. No. This has been planned over decades, if not centuries, to put in place. And I loved how he talked about how we've swept, it's like sweeping the dust and the dirt under the rug. And now we're pulling that rug back, and we have to look at that dust and dirt to clean it out. And so sometimes, it can be very frustrating.
It can be, for sure.
But when we adjust how we're looking at it, it's like, this is the opportunity to create something new and beautiful.
It is, but we still have to look at the negative. And this is what people don't want to look at. They want to sweep everything under the rug. And I have a problem with the middle ground right now, because a lot of people won't give up their material comforts. So they're pretending this isn't happening. What is there now? 7,000 children that bodies they found in the residential schools. Mom, nobody's talking about it. Who is responsible for those bodies? They say, oh, the parents didn't care about them, so we just buried them here. Bullshit. When we hear the stories about the residential school, we have to look at the ugly in ourselves, and we have to look at the ugly in the collective. But the idea is we don't go in and fuel it with our emotions. We see it for what it is.
That's that pulling back of the rug. We're looking at the destruction and the horrible things that they've done, and we've swept them under the rug. We have to look at it. We have to pull it back.
Have to look at it.
No cleaning it until you know where all the dirt is.
And the idea, though, is that you do that, but you learn how to emote and feel compassion for the people who have been hurt in the past. And yeah, maybe we didn't realize what was going on. And at one point, I didn't know what was going on. I was a good little taxpayer thinking I paid my income tax and I was helping the lesser fortunate in society and blah, blah, blah. And I really took a really eye-opening event for me to get over myself and realize that, no, I was feeding the machine. I wasn't feeding the positive. I was feeding the negative by playing the game and going along with things in the system, right? And it's not about judging me, and I'm not judging anybody else. I'm just saying that this is we have to go in and look at this with our hearts, because when our hearts open up even more, that's when we're going to genuinely bring in love. And I know a lot of people talk about the love and the light. And we've talked about that, right? The new age stuff. It's just bullshit. It's the subconscious mind telling a story. But until we go in and actually feel this, that's when we're going to radiate as love and be able to change it. So we're at a really interesting point, but the idea is to pivot our energy, because who wants to feel sad for any length of time? Nobody, but we have to look at it and say, what is this teaching us? And what I learned from being despondent, a lot of the energies that are coming in right now, I think the Schumann resonance, they said, was up 600% this week. It's up again, right? So these energies are impacting us, but things are coming up. My hot button is the middle ground, the people who pretend they don't get it, because they don't want to lose the material gain. And we all know people like that. Everybody here knows somebody. Maybe you're married to them. Maybe they're your parents, your siblings, doesn't matter who they are, your neighbors, whoever it is. But while they sit here and play stupid, and I have a friend, her husband is so caught up on money that he basically is ready to divorce her because she understands what's going on. He wants nothing to do with it. Now he's questioning her validity in his life. And it's like, wait a minute, you guys are the problem. Right. Yeah. So it was interesting. I thought about it this morning. I thought about two things that we needed to see, one of two things before we all got on the same page. And what would that be? And one was the financial markets. If they correct, these people are going to wake up because they're going to get their financial asses handed to them. People worry about the downside of the market twice as much as they worry about the return. So they'll see the return and say, I made 5% this year. If they had $1 million, they would look at it that I lost $50,000 this year. But yeah, I made 5%. They don't care about as much as the upswing as they do the downswing. That will get their attention. Is that a healthy way to get their attention? I'm not sure. The other one is when if the grid goes down, that the programming is going to come off because the computers, the media won't be able to NLP people and tell them the same thing with the programming. And then I thought the third thing is the water, because there's so much water happening right now. Some people are aware of what's going on with the Three Gorges Dam and what's happening with New York right now. Because what do we need? What does water do? It suffocates us. We have no oxygen, so we need to breathe. So they're bringing up things. So there's a few things that we look at, but something big has to happen for this to shake, because I don't think we can do this alone on our own. And I am not a coward, or I am not afraid to get in and get my hands dirty, but we need something. And this is maybe where they say we're going to have a earth-shattering event, or something's going to bring us to our knees. Something has to give for us to be able to make the break. But the beauty of what we're doing, and especially here and with other people we're talking to, is that we are going through and clearing out this stuff. So when it does come up for clearing in a bigger sense, a grander scale, that we maybe have gone through our own, so then we can help people even more. So maybe that's when we'll find where our spot is of what we're supposed to do. So I've had people talk to me this week and tell me that in school, one 11-year-old tried to take her life because her mother isn't around during the COVID stuff, and she's looking after her siblings and can't handle it. How many of us are going to be taking children in on some level? I'm not saying we want to do this. Another one was getting physical with one of her siblings, and it turns out her mother was going into seizures, and she was looking after her siblings and couldn't handle it. Betty and I, we've talked about looking after the pets. I know people who want to look after the animal kingdom. So there's going to be something that comes up that's going to join us together, that it's going to be bigger than what we think it is now. But it's just interesting that we're talking about this. Project Veritas is one of the independent news media. Is anybody familiar with James O'Keefe? He's doing a lot of work uncovering the corruption within the Washington Post and the media. Well, they just got flooded out in New York. How convenient is that?
Yeah.
Right. So this isn't about doom and gloom. This is about just having a look and knowing where we're at right now, and
looking at it from a different perspective. The pivoting, all of these things, all of these disasters, I think are leading us to somewhere better. It's destroying the infrastructure of the dark side.
Totally. And it has to happen, right? But my point is,
and water, though maybe suffocating, is also cleansing. So floods are cleansing the earth at the same time. And so that is a different way, again, that pivot of how you're looking at it from a negative to a positive. And so it'll cause destruction, but it's war. We're in war. We're at war. People die and things go down. And, you do the best you can to get through it, but let's look at it from a very different perspective.
So what I'm saying is feel your feelings. This is what I'm saying. There's no right or wrong feeling. If you're feeling down about something, feel it. What is it telling you? Is it telling you to prepare something that you need to organize? Because when it comes down to this, it's going to be each and every one of us who gets back in touch with ourselves, doing what is right for us. Because you will be where you're meant to be, especially if you've committed yourself to be service of creation. Of creation, you're going to find that spot, right? But so we're in the birth canal, whether I use the water cliche, the water slide, we're in the birth canal, and maybe it's not pretty, right? But it's just knowing how to turn that energy around. So what I was saying when I started with this is just one thing can change your perception. So don't think because you're in a mood or something's affecting you that it's going to be that way forever. Project Veritas, we would be naive to assume that the dark team still can't control the weather. So we have to understand that we're still in danger, but it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. And when we get through that, so yesterday there was military up in Sudbury. Did you see the tanks and that in Sudbury? Are they coming to Toronto? Who knows what's happening? I'm not in that area. It doesn't. So Who knows what's happening with it, but we have to understand that there are things that are going to happen and prepare us that know that we are going to come through this. We are going to come through the other side of it, right? Everything has to come down the way it is. Look at the nurses right now who are talking about they're going on strike and they're upset because they have to get the jab. And it's like, did they care? How many people have they jabbed?
Yeah, well, this is the unfortunate reality that you don't feel it until it affects you.
Right.
And that's what we've had throughout this entire thing. I've seen that there's a lot of people with no empathy for others. It's only when it hits your doorstep. So those, that have been fighting against this and speaking against it, even though it may not have affected you personally in a great level, you see the damage it's doing. But then there are those who's like, I don't care as long as I keep getting what I need out of it. Yay. Some people have been opportunists, like our premier who made millions off of stickers for the floors, where to stand at the grocery store. And
that's
so
how the game is played.
Until it hits some people, it is until it hits your doorstep that you will finally stand up. Right. Not everybody has the courage to stand up for somebody else. And that's what I think that's what we're seeing with the nurses. They finally hit their doorstep. And
it's happening with the police in Toronto. The police don't want to get it either. Some of the police in the Toronto police force. So this is just interesting to watch as the system falls away, that we can still pivot and go back into the good about what we're doing. What difference do we want to make in the world? What gift do you have? What like a talent or a skill that's uncovered that you're not aware of? And it's been interesting. I'm going to jump here a bit, but going into dream state, dreams are starting to change. And I've noticed that for a while that things are changing in my dream. I'm getting more solutions again in my dream. I'm of the opinion that we have to go through, we're in 3D, we're going through the 4D, which the lower 4D is the astral travel that's not nice. And maybe you're having bad dreams. We go into the upper 4D and then we're working our way into the 5D. So it's all happening. But being able to pivot is going to be paramount, that we don't stay down when we see things that terrify us or scare us or make us sad.
Yep. 100%. And I mean, you got to feel it to heal it, but don't live in it. And I think we've
totally
said that before. I think with Patty, when we're talking about maybe a couple of weeks ago, she said you have to feel it to heal it. And absolutely and you have to see it to know that it's happening and believe it. And that's what we're going through, all of this. And it's like, yeah, it's horrible. And we actually don't have time right now, really, to wallow in holy fuck land.
We don't, but we have to feel it if we're not going to get a landslide smack upside the head down the road. So it's still easier to feel it when it's not really bad yet. It's not really bad yet, but it's still better to feel it.
Distraction, because I've said many times that Winston Churchill quote, when you're marching through hell, and 4D is kind of hell, because that's that negative space between 3 and 5. We're marching through there.
Keep going.
Don't stop to wallow, is all I'm saying. Is we got to keep marching. On the other side, we can actually really just strip away. There's almost like we do need a bit of an armor on right now to be able to. And I think this last year and a half has built an armor around, a lot of these bad news stories. They're not affecting me on the same level. When you talk about. I know I talk to people and it's like, oh, it's just, I can't take it. And it's like, well, it's just news to me. It's like, it is what it is. Move on. It is what it is. Move on. We will deal with it some of it you're going to have to deal with on the back end if it's going to stop you from moving forward. But there's some things we can actually clear as we go.
Clear as you go. And then bring in the new energy codes, the new light codes that are coming in, right? Clear as you go. And that's, when we watch people get tense, that's when they're blocking the energy in their body, because I think a lot of people, their physical bodies aren't going to make it through this transition. And as soon as they hold themselves back energetically, it was funny. I was talking to somebody yesterday and she likes to look at everything outside of herself. And I said, do you know how proud I am of you, how hard you've worked in the last year and the changes you made? And I said, remember that one therapist said he didn't think you were going to make it, that you were going to check out? And she looked at me and she nodded. And I said, you did this. People have helped you. I've helped you. Your husband's helped you, but you did the work. I'm so proud of you. And I listed about 10 things I was proud of her for. And she just looked at me and she goes, this isn't how I was trained. And I said, I know you think you're being arrogant by saying complimentary things about yourself, right? So I had her give her a homework assignment. I'm proud of myself because, and then to go and list these things out and keep saying it to herself, because we still have to feel what we've been through. We still have to feel the darkness, because it's through our feelings that we are going to get to the higher dimensions. Everything's going to come through the emotional side. So it's okay to see the negative. And it was interesting because things came up from her past and she just, as if she's just telling a story.
Yep.
It no longer had a charge. So what I'm saying is we're getting dogged with some of these energies. Everybody has their up days and down days. You have them, I have them. But why is it happening? Is it ours? Is it not? And I know I must sound like I'm beating a dead horse sometimes because I'm saying the same thing. But we're still going through it. But we keep going through. It's the process that's important, not the fact that something got you down. What's the process of identifying what it is? Is it mine? Can I do something about it? Is it physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual? You talked about how when you're getting on the computer, pop-up windows keep trying to block you.
Jesus, yeah. The last 2 weeks now, it's been every time I've tried to get on here and do a live, I tend to have problems.
So they're testing your psyche, right? So this is what I'm saying. So don't take this stuff personally. This is for everybody. We're all going to get tested with this stuff. Don't take it personally. But if something comes in, identify it. Is it yours or not? And the more we do this, the better we're going to get at it. And the faster we're going to get at processing it. Because it's just going to be part of the story. And now we realize that, yeah, this was just training up to this point of where we are right now. But now that we're going into the battle, which we are going into the battle, this is going to be what comes down. Oh, well, it's what it is. But when we realize we're in it, we don't have to get the charge. We don't have to take an emotional charge with it. We can look at it, see what it is. So Sasha Stone was on with Kirsten W. This week. And I like what he says. He says what we're saying. Why aren't we moving the clouds with our minds? Why aren't we moving these things? So we still look at what's going on, but don't take our sight off the ball, which is bringing on our superior psychic abilities. He said, why aren't we taking the 6 and 7-year-olds and before we indoctrinate them in the school system and encouraging them to be able to use their psychic abilities before they lose those abilities within the education system? So this is all positive, even though it seems negative, pivoting your energy, going to the dark, but it's always a transition of dark to light. I have a feeling a lot of parents are going to be checking out on the little ones. What does that mean? And I don't do diapers. That's not my thing. I'm not looking to do the physical day-to-day stuff, but we can all have something that we can do, something that we can add. Do you know how many psychic people that I know that get it? They understand the military bases in Detroit. I was speaking with a woman last night. She lived in Windsor for quite a few years. She knows all about it. She said she went in with her third eye and psychically checked out the underground military base and they knew she was there. Can you imagine her guiding some of the younger ones to trust in what they see?
Yeah.
So much good is on our horizon. And the only reason I'm bringing this up again is pivoting is because we're all going to get tested. You're getting tested with your computer. I'm getting tested with my emails are down still. And it's been like over a week. Do you know what? It doesn't matter what it is. We're all going to get tested. But how do we move through all this? This is the key. And we understand the alphabet soup and we understand the abuse of the language, like aboriginals. When they call aboriginals, basically they're abnormal. Aboriginal. Do you know what I mean? We're starting to understand all of these concepts that have been used against us and we shine through it, but we still have to feel it as we go through it. And that's what I'm finding a lot of people are afraid to do. They're afraid to feel the feelings as we go through it.
Yeah. Well, I think a key thing that you said, and I just was making some notes as we were going through, is your client that started to realize that it's okay to say good things about herself. And it's a big part of actually getting your gifts is knowing your own worth. Totally. Remembering who you are, because we are part of divinity and that is within us. And when we can recognize that divinity within us, because that's the big thing that they've been stripped from us. I think Jen and I don't know if we did it on live on air, but we talked about, you're born of sin. I mean, it's what they've told us from the beginning. We're not. You're born perfect and innocent. what does sin actually even mean? They've been
Miss
pushing it
Mark.
down in it because they don't want us to realize the light within us, that the divinity within us, the amazing things that we are actually able to achieve, because they're afraid of us. So they have to keep knocking us on the head.
This is why I'm talking about the feelings.
So it's not about being a narcissist or being conceited. It's about actually understanding who you are. And then at the same time, I can see the divinity in someone else. And there becomes a respect and a connection. It's not about I'm so much better because I'm from the creator, but we all are.
We all are.
We all are. And it's as we discover that, it actually does create a better place when we can see that beauty within ourselves.
Right. And this is what I was saying to her about her, like it's a program. Not believing in yourself is just another program. And when she was getting ready to leave, I made a comment about I'm proud of you for something. And she went, and I said, did you catch yourself just doing that? Like she recoiled at the thought of being proud of herself.
Yeah.
Even though we just talked about it 10 minutes prior to that. So these are all just programs that are coming off. And why I'm really pushing, I'm not pushing the negative agenda. I'm saying these feelings are coming. They're landing on people in different ways. Doesn't matter if it's a good feeling or a sad feeling, but we have to feel these things, understand why we're feeling it to be able to move through it, right? And when you talk about the divinity, aren't we all? But how do we see the negative without empowering the negative? And this is why I want to talk about this, and to the degree I am, is if we get into the fear or we get into the anger. A lot of people are getting angry right now. They're getting pissed off with what's going on. Rightly so. Anger vibrates higher than fear, but we're still fueling the negative agenda. So they want us look in fear.
Anger will also spur you on to do something about it. So anger is not a bad thing, especially right now, because if you're angry because somebody wants to do something to your child in this stupid mayhem, especially now the school is starting next week here in Ontario, that's a good thing because they'll stand up and fight for what's right. So sometimes anger is an important emotion to propel you forward to do the right thing. Anger
vibrates higher than fear, but you still have to be in control of your anger. You can be mad at something, but don't do a drive-by on them.
No.
Like that kind of thing. So I just went to, drove down the street the other day, 2 days ago maybe, and there's the school. There's a school at the end of my street, and I just happened to look in the parking lot, and I'm thinking, why is there so many vehicles? Maybe the teachers are coming in, and I look and there's a bus. It's a COVID bus. It's like the mobility. Do you remember the bookmobiles we used to have? Now they've got a COVID bus that's going around to the schools. And what exactly are they doing? Are they going to do it without the parents' consent?
Yes.
You know, like, this is the absolute evil. So we still have to see it, not be charged by it, but notify people this is what's going on. Make good decisions. It's funny because kids are out here on the street saying hi to me the last couple of days, and I'm like, why are they all saying hi to me? Maybe because I'm not in fear that I look like a normal person. I have no idea, but it's just kind of funny how you start to sense things around you that are different, right? So I agree totally with anger. I went through a lot of times where I've said to people, anger probably saved your life because it vibrates higher than fear.
Yeah. And it is a propeller. It's a propeller. It's not to stay in it and become, because a lot of people bring it out, use your anger in a productive way, not in a destructive way. And there's two ways of, using your anger to move you forward or keep you stuck in a really negative space.
Right. But we also have to, so when we look at the internal dialogues that we tell ourselves, look at the external and look at what these nurses coming out saying, oh, we don't want to get the jab. But how many people did you stick with that thing last year?
Yeah.
So there's got to be an accountability. Anger can bring us towards that accountability in society. I'm not going after the nurses. They'll figure out whatever they need to do. I don't even know if that whole system needs to fall, which I think it does. But it's just kind of interesting what motivates everybody, right? That's what I'm seeing anyways. Yeah, they'll bribe the kids with a free McD's meal, or they're doing the double Krispy Kreme donuts right now. That's what they're doing in the United States. Somebody posted something with a guy who has a collar on. He has blood clots. Like, it's just insane, right? But at what point do we stand up collectively where we don't even have to go out and march or whatever, that our consciousness says no more? And I think this is going to come from our hearts. and why, that we no longer accept this, but we want the loving future. We want a loving energy. We want to be able to communicate emotionally without verbalizing our thoughts, because everybody, it doesn't matter. No two people agree on anything. I've come to that conclusion, but know what we all want: love in our own way. We want a society that's prosperous, those kind of things, right? But we have to do that with our emotions. And I know, Deborah, you're saying that you're terrified sometimes. Ask if it's yours. Ask why you're afraid. Is it a physical risk you have, or a deficiency that you need to load up on? Is it an emotional? Is it mental? Sometimes, I know you've gone through some changes. When you make changes, people send you psychic attacks. You need to know how to protect yourself energetically. And it doesn't matter if it's one or all of the above or something different. Know how to protect yourself while you're going through these things, right?
Right.
So because it's almost like we're in a minefield. We don't know where the mines are, but we know they're in there.
Minefield out there right now. It really is. And I'm, speaking to people who, they're being careful with even what they say, because you don't want to be targeted as a, non-veer, or because, let's be real, we're coming to a point where they have their gulags already up and running in Ontario. And there's some nut jobs out there that are totally bought in. And you have to be, those are the ones who just be the example, maybe not even in words, but just in action. No, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid,
but understand that there's reasons
to tell you how to live or what to do or anything else. You don't go to places that make you do stupid things.
So it's really interesting.
Are going to be requiring this in a couple weeks. If it's 30% is the percentage that haven't gotten it in Canada, a 30% loss in revenue for any company is huge. A 30% loss in their workforce is even bigger.
So we used to defend small businesses, but the small businesses aren't defending the people who don't want to get it.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
I've seen a lot, and we have the power. I've been saying this. We have the power, because when you say no and you say, well, then you don't get me. You don't get my money, or you don't get my labor, or you don't get my, my thought processes, depending on the job you have, or my great ideas. Yeah, you don't get them anymore. And guess what? All you need, and really 10% drop in revenue, a 10% drop in your workforce is crippling to any company. You think
I know,
it's a lot, but it's crippling.
And I appreciate that, and it's not quite as, you have to go further than that, but it'll also cripple the food chain and the supply chain. So we still have to watch for how exactly all this is going to unfold. But I agree with that. But I was telling you, Betty, I went in to get my driver's license renewed, and without going into the scuffle that I had to get in, I ended up having to wear a shield. And I got to the counter, and when I said, "Oh, you have to get your picture taken," they go, "You have to take your shield off for that." And I'm like, we've gone to Stupidville and back with a lot of this, right? So it's just funny how the rules would be whatever anybody wants to make them. So we need a lot of things to change. And it's not just the businesses that have to empty out. We need the government structures, like the Services Ontario, Services Canada, the hospital system. We need everything to end, right? So when we look at the magnetism, we are naturally magnetic. This is what I think is coming in. And when we magnetize, we draw to us the positives, if that's what we choose to do. But we have to clear out the darkness or any kind of self-doubt or things along that line. That's why I think they're putting the magnetism and the graphene oxide in the stuff, because they're creating false magnetism, and that's what they're going to use to mind control. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So this is what we have to understand, how powerful we really are, right? So when we understand how powerful we are, this is where we step into our power. We know we can part the clouds. We know we can send positive or negative energy wherever we want it to go. We know we can raise our own radiance. And when we raise our own radiance, that's when we're vibrating as love instead of just using it as a word.
Yeah.
So.
No, absolutely. That's that finding that divinity within and realizing that we are so powerful. We are more powerful than we were ever told or could ever imagine. And it's when you realize that you are part of whatever you call God, and I call it creator, source, mother, father, spirit. You are the spirit that they created. You are that. Just like you're part of your parents. Bits of them are in you. That's
interesting. You know, it's interesting. I've been talking to people this week that we feel alienated from our families. And many people are thinking that. And when we're talking about this, if they're going to do everything else that they do in the hospital and harvest your organs and all kinds of stuff, what else are they going to do? And I'm wondering if all it would take would be one nurse on a night shift to switch the babies up, because they don't do any kind of genealogical studies to make sure that that is your child. And what we were talking about was that maybe we were born into the wrong family. Maybe they mixed us up at the hospital because the hospital is part of the satanic cult. And she goes, but I look like all my siblings. And I said, so do I. But I said, but when I look at all our baby pictures, none of us look the same. I wonder if how we appear is more socially constructed based on how the environment we grew up thinking we belong in a certain family. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
I'm just starting.
It makes me think of, how your pets end up looking like you.
Totally, right? Isn't that hilarious how this happens? So what I love about just even having these conversations is we're starting to look at things with fresh eyes. Yeah. So the other thing that came up is the Tartarian cities. That people are like, look at this, it's all buried under the mud floods. What if it's not? What if it's there on a different dimension and we just can't see it? What if all this is make-believe? So why it's really important that we pivot our energy, that we can, when we pivot our energy, we pivot our thoughts too. We open ourselves up to ask different questions. I don't know if I'm right, and I honestly don't care if I'm right or wrong. It has nothing to do with that, but it's asking the questions that are going to get us looking at things from a different perspective. And I had heard recently that there was people in China that said they looked over a lake and all of a sudden they could see a city in the distance. Was that the veil falling, like coming down?
Oh, the veil is definitely thinning. I've had those experiences myself.
You know it, right?
And it's pretty interesting and cool, but we're getting pockets of it. We're seeing it, and you can feel it. There is a shift in the air, and I think that's somewhat unsettling as well, because I think a lot of people, what is the shift? Is it?
I know.
What is that? And it's hard to let go of all of the things that we knew. And that's, I think, why I love that video that I posted yesterday, because he talks about the world is never going to be what it was in 2018, 2019, 20 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, because we didn't look at what it really was. And we need to look at what we want to create, something much, much better, a lot less corrupt. We're not supposed to run on hamster wheels. Our life is not supposed to be a hamster wheel. You're born, you end up going to school. That's your hamster wheel till you graduate, however far you go, and then you get a job and you're on a new hamster wheel. When do you get to live your life?
Right.
2 months out of the year to go on vacation.
It's gonna be a lot of changes that people are not going to want to make, and they're gonna try to push the masses down as they break free. So I'm really stressing this again, because it's easier to practice going through all of this now when it's not really bad yet, and practice going through, okay, this is what it feels like to be down. This is what it feels like to be fearful. When you can be afraid, but not cowardly. Like you can be afraid, but not let it cripple you. But these are all practicing things that we're going to be doing, right? So that video, when you look at people like Jordan Maxwell, they were out years ago talking about a lot of the things we're talking about. So I'm not saying I've got it all figured out by any means, but they had to come off YouTube because they were threatened to be sued, not even just be taken down, but to be sued. Jordan Maxwell, Santos Bonacci, astrotheology. He's talked about so many things about the church way back when and the corruption, how the Vatican owns your soul, things along that line. But these are the people who've come out and done it. Lisa Renee also spoke a lot about what's going on in with the negative alien agenda. She had to get off of the mainstream platforms because they were threatening to kill her.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there who know what's going on and can give their great sources of information. Again, we take what works for us and leave the rest, right? But it's impressive with how much is out there. And many people here are waking up. Like, it's not just a few of us, everybody's starting to wake up. But what are we waking up to? Because if we're not careful, or we start following the narrative, some of the narratives that are presented, we're just going to create the same again, right? So I like the Tartarian cities, like that idea. What is that energy about? And I was watching somebody else who said that our bodies are we are the energy. We're the free energy. It's our bodies, and that's why they want our vessels to be clean, so that we can start bringing in the consciousness and feel the love energy, but radiate it as love itself, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it's we should be able to vibrate with nature and everything around us to create that energy. It's not just us; it's the earth is energy, the air is energy, everything, water, and we create it through all of, because it's all nature. We are nature too.
Totally.
They're trying to make us not nature anymore, and that's where the resistance is coming in. And I have to say, I have to say, the French, I tip my hat to them with their passports and restaurants. I don't know if anybody saw those pictures of them lining the streets in front of the restaurants, doing their own picnics. Restaurants empty, everybody sitting on the streets having their picnics, basically giving them a big FU. We can still do it on our own terms.
Yes. This is what's going to really be the catalyst that changes things. I haven't seen those, but fantastic for them, right? Well, a lot of the rallies, even at Canada Day last like a year ago in 2020, it was the Quebecers who came in with the flags and made those events. I won't say successful, but they were the ones who really got behind it, right? They love their freedom, and we all need to love our freedom, and we should love our freedom. But that is fantastic. And I think people are going to be looking for alternative food sources, things along that line, because I'm under the impression that what happens in the grocery store, I was eating vegetables from the grocery store and I couldn't eat them and I was just turned off by them. I went to a country market, bought some fruit and vegetables. I had no problem eating them. I'm wondering if they're spraying the food in the grocery store. Like we're letting the whole thing fall aside. But this is what's great about pivoting our energy, because we don't know what's going to come down from 1 minute to the next. But we know that no matter what they're going to do, they're going to make a move. We're going to make a counter move.
Yep.
And pivot that way, right? So it's really good.
Yeah, and you're right. We do need to choke the stores and the events, and they're already suffering. Let's be real. Who was telling me the other day that football games, they're almost giving away tickets because they cannot fill the seats. People are disgusted in politics and the shit that they've brought in to what's supposed to be entertaining.
Right.
And so our idea of entertainment is changing. Our idea of everything is changing.
It's changing.
And
it's beautiful.
Blew up in their faces. They thought by locking us down, and it did scare lots of people. Let's get real, it did. But it also changed a lot of people, and it changed them for the better to start going, what the F is going on?
Totally.
Doesn't make sense. And they're still waking up. I mean, each time they push a little harder, a few more people go, wait a second. I'm
not seeing that, but it doesn't matter where I am. Maybe it's just a pocket that I'm in. I'm not seeing a lot of that, but every once in a while, somebody comes in and says, this is what's going on. I'm having a party for the people who aren't jabbed and are awake and know what's going on. This is the date I'm doing it. You're welcome to come. And it's like, perfect. So they're starting to, we're aligning. This woman who was saying that to me, she says she knows a fellow who works at a different hospital than, I think it's Grand River, and he works with the dialysis machines. He said, there's nobody on dialysis. It's all a lie. The hospitals are empty. So the people who are working in it are waking up too. That's going to be the divide of the frontline workers. Then there's going to be a divide of their supervisors and their supervisors and their supervisors. And it's going to be conscience and unconscionable.
Yep.
What lies are you not willing to tell anymore?
Well, and also we're seeing things like I was reading yesterday, last night actually, before I went to bed, Israel. Sweden has now banned Israel to travel, and a lot of Portugal was the first country because of their spike in cases. And how is that possible, since they're the highest in the world?
Yeah.
And that should be turning some lights on for people. It's like more than 80% of the population there have taken it, and now they're telling the people there that you aren't considered totally VE'd until you have 3 now. I think I posted that on Telegram, and but they're in the hospital. They're not, and I don't believe everybody's going to drop, and we're going to see huge deaths. We're going to see a lot of chronic long-term illness. We're going to see a lot of people who are going to need long-term help, because if you got the initial flu that this was, you recovered perfectly fine. If you took the cure for that, you're going to have lifetime of problems. And yeah, it might shorten your life. More likely it will, but I don't necessarily think we're going to see like massive people just drop dead in the streets all of a sudden.
I think it depends if they put in the 5G and how much of the graphene oxide is in it. It doesn't matter if we're right or wrong. Whatever's going to be is going to be, right?
I'm seeing a lot more chronic illness and chronic issues coming up from it. That
it's going to take time.
People are going to have to live with it for the rest of their lives, rather than a flu you get over in a couple weeks. Pick your poison here, people.
It's interesting. Can we go back to the Jerusalem or to the Israel thing? Santos, I posted a Santos Bonacci video on your Telegram, and he's talking about the actual area of London is originally Jerusalem. So it's just amazing how much is coming up. Again, we're asking the questions. We're pivoting. When we pivot our energy, we pivot what we believe. We pivot what we think. We pivot what we are willing to go along with. But so the idea is that we're energetically agile. And I think that's amazing. And I'm sure there's going to be people who are going to be, it's going to be a long time before they get taken down or taken out of this. And there's going to be some that go sooner. I know one of my people I was talking to yesterday, a friend of mine in London, she said her friend got it because her friend wants to check out. So some people are going to die by suicide. It's not, and I'm not judging anybody. The idea is you feel, so she's grieving. And I said, it's okay to feel the grief. What does it feel like? She goes, all my friends have got it. Everybody in my church has got it. Okay, so now you need to find new friends. You've got this possibility. What else have you got? So helping pivot them out of this, not telling her what to do. I don't believe in telling anybody what to do, but look at your options. Be ready to pivot your energy, pivot your choices. So no matter what comes down the tube, that you're not immobilized with fear or not knowing what to do, right?
Well, I mean, and I think probably everybody here has lost tons of people, and it's just finding new people. Maybe they don't live in your area, but it doesn't matter. That's the beauty of the internet, and Telegram, which is fantastic because you can actually talk to somebody for free on there and see them, and actually be able to cultivate friendships with individuals that are like-minded and maybe live.
Doesn't matter where they live, you're connected, right?
Around the world, it doesn't matter. They're there for you, and that's how we build our communities. And it's gonna, I don't know, a year from now, 2 years from now, things will be completely different, and having very different conversations on how we are able to build more into what we want, and really rethinking. And it doesn't mean the first idea is the right idea, that, you try something, it doesn't work, and be open to, all right, maybe that's not the way to do it. Let's move and try something else. Because that's a new world that we're walking into. Nobody is going to have all the answers.
Right. And that's a pivot too. And try something, it doesn't work, but you don't let it knock you down. You just say, what could I do differently? Right. So this is the idea, is being very agile with our energy and knowing, I know if I go into a funk, I know, is this me? And I can ask myself. And I knew that was me this week, but I didn't realize the outside influences were bringing this out in a lot of people. So it's like, okay, so now I learned that. Okay, so I don't have to take this so personally or whatever it is, but just be able to feel it. People are telling me they're very nauseous this week.
Well, I think there's a collective energy too with the mandates that came down this week. I think it was a bit of a gut punch to a lot of people in this province. Because just 2 weeks ago we were told, no, we're not going to do that. No, we're not going to do that. And of course they're going to. Every time they say, no, that's not our plan. That is the plan. I mean, they've already showed us that over and over again. But I think a lot of people were hoping it wouldn't be. And now here it is. And it was a bit of a gut punch. So I think collectively we've seen Ontario taking a bit of a hit. I was happy to see, and I posted on the 1st, the March, just in the middle of the week, Wednesday, huge march in Toronto, just saying, no way, we're not for this, which was beautiful. And you told me the
It
same
was the police, yeah.
that it was that march, so the no jab march, no mandatories. Then there was also the police on that day and the nurses on that day. So Toronto was a busy place protesting. Did you
Nice
hear
to
it
see.
anywhere? Nope. You saw it on, I think somebody had sent me that from TikTok. You're seeing it on Telegram channels, but you're not seeing it on mainstream. They don't want us to know. They're not listening.
No, and that they're gonna get their own someday. Somebody's gonna come, and whatever's gonna happen, I don't know what that is, and it doesn't matter. Even if we just never believe them again, and no matter what job they want, they're not trustworthy. That they can't. They're not employable because they've shown they have no integrity. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with some of those people, right? But this is when you talk about waking up. Good for Toronto, because Toronto's a sanctuary city. And it's interesting how many signs in my neighborhood, I noticed in my neighborhood what signs are liberal and what signs are conservative. And it's a lot of the immigration population, whether Pakistan or India, that have the liberal signs, but then they all got paid cash when they came into Canada. You start to realize that people, whatever you're going to get for free is how you're going to vote. And it's like that system is so done. You can see it by what signs are on people's yards. You can see what their stand, like we're seeing things that we never saw before. I'm not trying to stereotype anybody, but it's true.
What I've noticed is, I've seen them too. But what I'm noticing is there's a lot less than I've ever seen before during an election. A lot less.
And some of them are cut in half, which I'm finding funny. Some of the signs, they've gone and cut them in half. So I look on the side of the road and I think, why is that sign cut in half? And you realize that people are just maybe they're doing it to both sides. I don't know, but I'm noticing that they're defacing the signs.
Yeah, and then we have that other party, PPC, here in Canada, which I think is a good disruptor. I think they're the only ones saying nothing mandatory, no more masks, no more lockdowns, no more nothing. Like that's not real science. And I don't know that I'm totally bought into their leader, but I do like their message. And then you're looking here in Canada, when you're voting, you're not voting necessarily for the leader. You're voting for your local representative. So you need to know that local representative's name to vote for the right party. And
look at Dominion voting machines. So they found them in Shepherd Ave, which is Chinatown in Toronto.
Oh, I know.
So, and the leader of the party you're talking about, his father was an ambassador in Haiti.
But it's the people that are running in the municipality. So for the MPPs, those are just regular folks like you and me that want to change. And they're the ones who vote. They're the ones who vote for every bill. They're the ones who make the change.
I wonder if independence will be of the future. I don't know. I'm not watching it.
I'm going to be honest. I don't even know that this is going to happen on the 20th, but we'll see.
I know. Remember we did it with the rods? You got no, and I got real close. Like the tips of the rods connected, but it was just like I don't know if it's going to happen either, right?
I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, everything is subject to change, but I think with what's happened because Trudeau thought he was a shoo-in again.
And that could be the case, and he could be trying to make himself screw up so bad that he gets out and they bring O'Toole in to pass the baton of bullshit. Because that's how Chrétien got out and put in Paul Martin. Paul Martin lost. You can see he didn't try, and then Harper gets in. Harper's in for a couple terms, and then Harper's time to go, so he fucks up the election, and then Trudeau gets in. So then now Trudeau trying to do the same thing. So sometimes they come off as incompetent.
Yes, and then just to pass the baton and to take away all the scrutiny because there's been so many scandals around him. And so then the scandals go away as he fades into the
sunset and comes back as something else. And that this is the game of the politics, right? The polypedo shuffle. That's what I call it.
It's because they're touting him as the most likable candidate. And it's like, really? The guy can't get a visa into his own country that he is born into. So I don't know.
I know.
When we ask them why, they won't let him back in.
O'Toole also has red shoes. So let's just keep it all in context, right? So none of them are
Build Back Better. It's right there. Build Back Better.
Is he?
Yeah, he's a Build Back Better guy. We know where his alliances are. Problem is they didn't realize we would know their signs. We would understand.
Exactly.
If you look at their symbol, it's a C with a leaf going straight out. And if you actually look at the symbol for the what's it called, communism, it's a C like this with the hammer coming out this way, just the opposite way. It's actually exactly the same, just see this way or see this way, with something coming out at the same angle.
And that's fantastic that you caught that, because it's all in the symbolism. So the fact you're sharing that with people just awakens even more people to what the game is.
They're freaking communists, people. Wake up.
Totally.
So this is a tool. He's not an O tool. He is a tool. Okay? He is a tool.
Your bowels matter.
The dark side. Do not vote for that asshat. Do not vote for Jagmeet Singh, because he's got ties to people we do not want.
I know.
Again, and he has been Trudeau's lackey to keep him going this whole time when they made a coalition. Then we've got Trudeau, who, holy shit, has been nothing but scandal after scandal after scandal for the last 6 years. Okay, so none of them are good. If we have to go to the polls, go PPC, it will fuck them up. Will they win? Absolutely not. But if they win a few seats, key seats, because it doesn't mean Max gets in, it means people in his party get in. And those are regular people and can disrupt.
I don't know if they're going to toe the line or what they had to sign beforehand to be part of his party. You know, like, do they have to sign a do not disclose that they will go along and toe the line? I honestly don't know. I would like to see more independents run. I'd like to see the system change totally, that it's only independents who have a 4-year term.
I think we will go completely independent. This is all a show. It's all a show.
I know.
It's all a bullshit show. So we need to, if it goes through, we need to, that's a strong message to the powers that be that, yeah, your top 3 parties, we're not having it.
I know, but I still think they've got Dominion voting machines. I don't think the T word got in, Trudeau got in the first place. So they're going to come up with whatever they want.
People know that they're voting, and they're not going to be able to do all of them. It's always in Ontario. So maybe they don't get a seat in Ontario, but they get a few out west and out east. Ontario and Quebec and out New Brunswick, I believe. I actually looked it up where they use them in Canada. Ontario, and it's key ridings. They use them in key ridings. So it's not all the way around.
Interesting, right?
They're going to do it differently this time, I don't know. But because the population is mostly here in Ontario and Quebec, that's where they start their messing around.
Yeah.
That's where they need to, right?
I know, but you know, it's funny. The people out west blame the people in Ontario for voting in the wrong politicians. Like, everybody's divided. It's so just wild how everybody looks at each other as the problem.
They do that on purpose. I mean, should they call an election before the polls even close in BC? Absolutely not. That actually creates division in the country. They do it on purpose. This is all planned. This is East versus West, conservative against liberal, or NDP against whatever, everybody else. It's like, I saw that last year when I was still on Twitter. And some of the Canadians that I followed, and I was like, you know, people, you need to stop hating. We need to stop hating each other. This is done on purpose to you.
Yeah,
I saw it clear as day that they do it on purpose to have that rivalry, so that we do not unite as a country to take them down.
And I can't remember if I told you this privately or if whether we said it last week. One time when I was on Twitter, I had a different handle. Some guy started following me, and I looked him up, and he worked at the national advertising firm in Toronto. And then I looked to see who the national was. I wanted to see who they're connected to. They ran the campaign for Stephen Harper on the federal platform and Andrea Horwath on the provincial platform. They know the game plan. They all know behind the scenes what's going on, so they can strategically place whatever. Okay, you're gonna cause a ruckus on this, and you're gonna go against this, and then you're gonna change your mind. You're gonna do this. So it's all, like you said, it's all just a game. It's all just a show, right?
It's a game, and they're all allowed to lie. That's been passed by our Supreme Court here in Canada. It's totally okay for them to lie.
Totally.
Because that's expected. Really? No, I expect them to tell me the truth so I know what to vote for. But hey,
it's not the game.
That's not in the cards.
No, it's not.
It's, you know, pin the tail on the donkey.
So what do we do in the meantime, right? We see this all as it is. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but we see all of this, but we want to see this because it's imperative that we see it, so that we say no energetically to it without charging it with our emotions. But a lot of things are happening in the quality of our dreams. Some people are starting to notice their dreams are changing. This is where we go to sleep at night and ask to be shown what's my best and possible outcome. What can I do to make a change in myself, in my surroundings, whatever it is. But know that as we're going through all of these changes, that we bring in more of our abilities, which is happening in the dream state. So are people remembering their dreams now? Like some people are saying yes, some people are saying no. But I think we're starting to wake up those other realms of consciousness, that's where we're creating the new in that etheric realm, because everything comes at a higher vibration to land in the physical.
Yep. And the beauty is we do need to, I just piggyback on what you started with there is when you see what they have done and all of this deception and seeing it, I know it can be difficult, but you can't heal it until you see it and feel it. And so even with all of this, and that's why we have to see it, it's because you don't know what to heal if you don't see where the problems were. And that's where we're at today. And that's where we have to go and pivot it and saying, instead of getting down maybe about, oh my gosh, they've done all these things to us. Oh my gosh, look at this now. And oh my gosh, this. And now look at it and go, okay, now how can we fix this and turn it around?
Totally.
Now we see it. Now we're aware. The awareness is there. Now we can change it.
And our past hasn't been.
Turn it around and go, now how can we change it and how can we make that a better thing for everyone?
And that's where we pivot, right? In the past, we didn't pivot. We would get demoralized or just knocked down. Now we're pivoting. Okay, we see what you're up to. This is what we're doing now, right?
Yes.
I know, I hear you. So this is fantastic that we're talking about it. And again, I think it's really important that we know that this is just the beginning of what we're going through. Practice feeling your emotions, feel what you're going through, release it, practice getting through it and saying, okay, this is upsetting. Because what came up this week was a few people are really feeling the pain. And I said to them, you know what the good news is? You're an empath. You feel everything. It's not going to be the people who are asleep who can't feel anything who are going to change the frequency. It's going to be the empaths for good or for bad. So the good news is you're an empath. You feel everything. The bad news is you're an empath. You feel everything.
Yeah.
So these things are going to register as feelings. So it's not always easy just to shut our minds off to these things when we're seeing the pain and suffering, but we don't get engrossed in it either. And then we pivot and turn and go into that higher level of what we want, right? So it's going to be the empaths, the people who are feeling now. I'm going to say a lot of the awake people now, they're going to be the ones who are going to be the change going forward, because the other ones who are asleep, they're neutral. They're not anywhere near, they're not going to raise up and be upset. So somebody told me in a grocery store, a local grocery store this week, a 60-year-old woman was beat up by a young guy and nobody stood, no, because she wasn't wearing a mask and nobody helped her. They just watched. So there's people who are apathetic. They're not raising the frequency. They're not lowering the frequency. They're there. Wherever there is, it's going to be the ones who feel. So when you see something bad, double up with positive.
NPCs, because I can't even imagine.
Standing there and just letting it happen.
Watching something like that happen. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. But guess what? Those are the things you have to see to change.
And it's easy to watch a younger guy beat up an older woman, but would he go and beat up somebody who was twice his size, a man twice his size? So fear is not the issue in our society. I think cowardice is. Absolutely. So this is what's coming to light, right?
Yep. Yeah. Totally. Why would you pick on somebody your own size where you could get your ass whipped?
This is the cowardice that we're talking about. So courage registers at 200. And I think courage registers at 200 on the map of consciousness. And in 2000, North America, I think, was registered. They knew they hit the consciousness of 200. Then what happens in 2001? The towers come down. Then we drop back into fear, which is 100. So we understand the game with our consciousness, and we can move our energy faster. We pivot and say, yeah, we see this. Yeah, we're not doing that. We're going the opposite direction.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, with the Schumann resonance, it's telling us consciousness is rising. And so they're not able to keep enough of us in fear to keep the vibration low.
Totally.
That is a really positive thing, that we are actually changing the vibration of this planet. We are changing things. We may not be the majority, but we're the more powerful, because that higher vibration actually beats through that. Think about it.
Totally.
Low vibration is not able to do much. High vibration, we can break through stuff.
Totally. So you've got it. We've all got it, right? It's just a matter of remembering it when we get thrown off center, when we're hearing the news come out, or they're doing one more thing and they're going to do one more thing and one more thing, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And,
Sorry. I'd like to say hi to everybody who's coming in a little later. We haven't checked in and said hi to some of the people that are come in after the fact. But this has been great to talk about this and know that we've got this. And it's going to be bumpy, but it doesn't matter what they do. I don't know. It's almost like you've got grit. You know what I mean? Like we're not backing down.
No, we're you got to dig in your heels. No, not buying it anymore. We're done. Yeah. And that's how I feel. I'm done. I'm done with this bullshit, and nobody to say is. I know that there's a lot of lies, and even the things that I know I think are true, I know we'll find out lies. But I know one thing for sure: all that they are telling me are 100% lies, and I'm digging in, going, I'm not buying any of your shit. No, and I am searching for truth. That is my mission. The energy. And that is my purpose. That is my goal. We're going to find the truth. We're going to flip this shit on its head. And guess what? What you do, what you say, you aren't going to matter anymore. You are going to be like dust. Will blow you away.
Including the in-betweeners, right? The people who don't have the courage to do the right thing. And it's going to be interesting where this is going. And I agree with you 100%. It's not going to be a matter that we're going to try to change the darkness. We're going to let people see it for what it is and let it fall aside. Just let it, it's not going to matter anymore, right?
They will be like, that's what we're going to be doing to them. Yeah, you're just an annoyance. Get the fuck away.
They already are, but we're not saying it yet, but we will be for sure.
Oh no, that's where we're headed. I see it. We're heading. It's like they're losing their power. They're all, and this is what really, before we sign off, because we're just over the hour, everything that they're doing right now, this hard push, is because of fear. They know they're going down. They're trying to take as many of us with them as possible.
Yes.
And that's it. Because it's like, I'm not going down alone. I'm taking you with me. And the more we can just stand our ground and say, no, sorry, you get to do this alone, the better off we are, the faster it comes, less of us buying into this and more of us pushing back. It's over for them. And they know. It's
not fear for them, it's vengeance. They want to get you because they're mad at you, because you're standing up. And it's no different than we're talking about domestic violence or whatever. So we think we're going to throw love at these people. We're not, because you don't love your abuser. You hold them accountable. But these people, they don't care what's going to happen, how good you are to them. They are going to try to destroy you. That's what they do, right? That's what evil does. It's not personal. But this is what you're saying. We're not taking it anymore. Hey, Murray, how are you?
Love yourself, because when you love yourself and respect yourself, you don't let this stuff them affect you.
No, and you're going to vibrate higher, which then they can't touch you, because that's what's going to get us our souls into the fifth, I think. Right?
Yeah.
So wonderful.
So that's just consciousness. It's we ain't going anywhere, guys. It's just consciousness. It's
all it is.
We vibrate. It's how we vibrate. It's nothing else.
And we're going to see more things because we vibrate higher.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. We're going to be actually in tune with a lot more of our innate abilities. And that's as we clean our bodies. It's going to take time because we're full of junk. There's going to be a cleaning process of everything. And then we elevate and elevate and elevate. 5 is just the basement.
Totally. We're gonna bring it all on. Alexander Quinn just recently did a video talking about the Schumann resonance and what's happening and what's going on with our bodies and what our bodies will no longer tolerate. If anybody hasn't seen that, I think it's just Alexander Quinn, Quinn, on YouTube. But just everybody's got a different perspective, different opinion. They've got a little more information. You know, it's just great sometimes to get a fresh perspective on what's happening, and it's all good stuff.
Yep.
It's all positive stuff, but we still have to know to pivot and change what we think on a dime.
Yeah, and I'm really focusing more on like, okay, the positive, because we need to, because it's really easy to see all the negative, but you just have to look outside most of the time. Go to the grocery store. You can see the negative. You go anywhere and you see, Jesus, I walk down the street. I see people walking with masks again all of a sudden.
I'm not seeing those as the negative. I'm seeing that's their business. But my understanding is we want to collapse the 3 and the 5D together. So that means we still have to see what's going wrong in the grand scheme of things and all the games and the manipulation, but we bring the 5D in and then we choose the positives. That's what I'm saying about pivot. We've got to collapse those two instead of trying to jump one.
Yeah, but those are the signs of the manifestation of their fear in the people who are not awake. It's a manifestation of it, and seeing that it's taken grip again. We are in a new cycle of fear. That's all I'm saying. It's not like I'm listening to the news and hearing their BS. I see that the news is creating a new state of fear by just what I can witness in my general surroundings.
Yeah, and everybody's got, we're all in different areas, so different things are going on. I was at a store recently and I said, I hear we're going back into a lockdown. It's going to be heavy this time with vaccine passports. You know what the kid said to me? Oh, that's a good thing. And I'm like, thin the herd. Like, he's no fear. He thought it was a good thing. People they're almost excited about getting locked up again. It's like, thin the herd, right?
Yeah. No. You know, there's people you can help and there's people you can't. And it's not up to us to make those decisions on who it is.
Exactly.
That's really the end of the day. They're either going to find you. The people who need you are going to find you.
Totally, right.
Put yourself out there. Anyways, it's 10 past the hour.
Yeah, let's call it a day today. So this is wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Appreciate you being here. Hope it helps.
Happy Labor Day weekend. It's a long weekend in North America. And I know we have a lot of Canadians and Americans here. So happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day.
What difference it makes, because I mean, every day seems like the same fucking thing. But it is it's
happening. Things are happening. It'll be good, but it'll be good.
Yeah. No,
have fun while you can.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Everyone, thank you. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.